The Oak Island team is pursuing a new location for their treasure hunt, aiming to uncover the hidden treasure. They have discovered human bones deep underground, one from Europe and one from the Middle East, after 200 years. The team believes that these bones might be closer than ever old tools, and they are heading straight for the spot where someone may have died to guard the vault deeper than ever. The team began by digging into the infamous Shaft 6 in the 1800s during one of the many failed treasure hunts. They believed that the collapse might have buried the goods, but what they hit next made the legend look tame. In 1861, the Oak Island Association drilled deep into the earth and claimed they struck 2 treasure chests stacked like a sandwich at around 110 feet down. Before they could high-five each other, the island flooded them out with a man-made flood tunnel, filled the shaft with seawater, turning the operation into a soggy disaster. RP-1 was different, pulling out old iron straps that looked like chest bindings. A pipe stem dated to the late 1600s pushed the timeline back an entire century as RP-2 descended past 100 feet. Things got weird in all the right ways, hitting wood, timbers, and pipes. The broken barrel stave, a thin, curved plank unmistakably from a barrel, fits the story like a glove. The team's strategy now is tight controlled, calculated, and aimed at the precise stretch of tunnel believed to have once carried the treasure before everything fell apart. If it's still intact, it will be the first time in over a century anyone has breached it. The artifacts from RP-1 and RP-2 are undergoing lab analysis. The pipe stem turns out to be Dutch, blowing the timeline wide open. Dutch traders were known for moving coins, spices, and weaponry in bulk, often stashed in barrels. The keg stave and pipe are evidence of movement of intent of people with something to hide, placing Oak Island right in the middle of something bigger than just pirate gold or old scrolls. Oak Island is a mysterious island where people have been digging for over 200 years, searching for a hidden treasure. The team has been digging for over 1,000 times in borehole H8, a little patch of dirt known for wasting time and giving answers. However, when they found the core, it was bone, real bone, and human remains. The team shipped the fragments to St. Mary's in Halifax, and when the results came back, the tone in the war room shifted. One set of bones came from European expectations, but another Middle Eastern origin. This single revelation cracked the lid off every theory this island has been drowning in for decades. The team expanded the dig radius around H8, scanning every inch with ground-penetrating radar, high-res borehole cameras, soil cores tested and double-tested. While no more bodies surfaced, the artifacts did not match colonial standards. Tools that didn't match colonial standards were found, as well as ceramic fragments with burn patterns unfamiliar to any local process. A rusted hilt, possibly from a sword twisted with time, but unmistakably forged in a style that didn't belong. A cross, not large or flashy, but a tiny sliver of metal tucked in the mud, had markings not fully Latin, clearly Arabic, some strange in-between symbols that blurred cultures. A secret handshake etched in metal was a message experts clashed hard over. One camp swore it was a Crusader cross adapted through cultural drift. Another group insisted it was Phoenician. Some outliers even brought up early Coptic Christian influences. The money pit might not be just a trap, it might have been a tomb or prison. Old records were torn apart, and a small note stuck out a mention of a foreign engineer named CM. When fed the symbols through new AI-powered decryption software, parts started making more sense, with characters resembling ancient Semitic scripts close to Phoenician or early Hebrew. Oak Island is always leaked, and when it leaks, message boards exploded. It's unclear whether this is a hidden sect, a Templar tomb, or proof of pre-Columbian contact people. Oak Island, a mysterious island off the coast of Nova Scotia, has been the site of a series of mysterious events and discoveries. The team, led by a precision shaft, has been working on a vault that may be more than just hiding gold. It might have been hiding the truth. Isotope testing on the bones has revealed more about the island's history, including traces of seafood, heavy minerals, and trace elements from areas near modern-day Lebanon. DNA sequencing has also been conducted, with mitochondrial lines pointing to ancestry along the eastern Mediterranean coast. The team has brought in linguists to analyze every marking on the island, including a cross, stone carvings, and geometric ratios tied to celestial cycles. The island has been buried with traps and resin, and locals have reported strange activity, including drones flying overhead at night and unmarked boats anchored offshore with high-end scanning tech. Behind the scenes, the lab teams have uncovered protein residue on the bones, possibly a chemical compound found in old preservation methods. This suggests that the buried man was cared for and preserved him with care. The small cross, traced to a mine near the Sinai Peninsula thousands of kilometers away, has been traced to a mine near the Sinai Peninsula. The team works under round-the-clock surveillance, not for safety, but because eyes are watching. They have been contacted by shadowy groups claiming to represent religious archives, and one even offered to buy the bones that never made it past the inbox. As they continue to work, the soil around them warps, and every bone has a voice. Once upon a time, LagIna found himself standing by himself at the perimeter of RP3, unable to view any plans or maps. He witnessed a man who was far away from his home, buried in silence, and longing to be remembered. At this moment, the island is yelling, and the rest of the world had better start listening. A variety of peculiar things, including old lead crosses, fragments of plaster, broken tools, and equipment that appears to have been taken straight from a British military storage facility, have been extracted by the crews. There are some of these discoveries that have connections to the Knights Templar, while others hint at the existence of covert operations. As the team continues to unearth more and more information, the enigma behind Oak Island continues to surface and become more clear. Since 1762, when the British smashed Havana and recovered vast amounts of treasure, the British monarchy has been involved in a secret treasure hunt. This quest began after the British crushed Havana. The search was conducted on Oak Island, which was located just around the corner and served as an ideal staging area. There are some records from that time period that have disappeared, which suggest that they were buried there by someone. Because of this, individuals dug deeper, and as a result, they found new things and scientific discoveries that could help them further their search. There are secret chambers, vast spaces beneath the surface, and tools constructed of materials that are not often found in that region of the planet that have been discovered by the Oak Island crew. Additionally, they have found a room that has walls that are lined with blackened clay, which may have been used to provide a waterproof barrier or conceal whatever was housed within. The more the crew digs, the more resistance they encounter, which contributes to the growing mystery. There is a lack of funding. The equipment breaks down, rumors are circulating, and there are visits from unknown people who ask an excessive amount of questions, but do not provide any answers. The more they delve into the enigma, the more foreboding it seems. There have been reports of weird energy readings, strange patterns of bones, and sculptures shaped like suns, moons, and stars. Additionally, some people claim to have seen symbols that match ancient rites that were performed for conception or death. The fact that Oak Island was utilized for ceremonies for a very long time before the development of the treasure beliefs would explain a great deal. When it comes to the plot, however, it is not only about buried gold and scary carvings. Some experts are of the opinion that Oak Island served as a central location on a secret map that connected other hidden locations all over the world, ranging from ancient pyramids to underground cities. It is possible that Oak Island is the first break in the wall that will reveal a network of secret history that has been waiting to be revealed. The natural environment does not make it simple for the team to locate something hidden beneath Oak Island. It is possible that it is not gold bars or royal crowns, but it is significant enough for someone to bury it under layers of falsehoods, traps, and years of quiet. At this point, the truth is beginning to emerge, and it is plausible that Oak Island was never hiding riches, but rather hiding history itself.
And any connections. Moreover, they discover a piece of beveled iron, which agrees nicely with the results of the most recent magnetometry investigation. This implies that the object was formerly a broken antique cutting tool. This finding suggests that human activity may have existed in a location that was previously believed to be devoid of people. In order to further understand the significance of this significant metallic anomaly evidence on Lot 8, the team made the decision to acquire additional excavation licenses and consult with experts. The discovery raises questions regarding its provenance and any connections it might have to other local findings. The scholars are intrigued by these unique items and believe that this particular area may hold some special significance. A large piece of iron with a beveled edge is discovered by the Oak Island crew. It may be a broken piece of the ancient adze, a type of cutting tool. This result is noteworthy because it agrees with a recent magnetometry research conducted by the team, which found a significant metallic anomaly in the same area. the same site where the survey was done. Our interest in further investigation of that area is piqued by the discovery of this tool in a place that was previously believed to be uninhabited. The team plans to first obtain a permit to excavate before speaking with various experts in order to determine the significance of this discovery. The secrets surrounding Oak Island keep getting more complicated as the show follows the journey of full-time treasure hunters through each new season. However, you might get the same results with your own gear. Their discoveries with metal detectors open up hitherto unfathomable vistas for historical inquiry. Always make sure to get permission before hunting anywhere, whether it's on someone else's land or a public space. The team of The Curse of Oak Island found some scientific proof that suggests it's possible the money pit holds a sizable amount of silver. They also found a patch of cement that had traces of gold and other metals, which made them think that the most rare metal in the world, osmium, would be buried somewhere in the ethereal depths of Oak Island. There is an island called Oak Island in the Canadian province of Nova Scotia. The two brothers Marty and Rick Lagena have, for all intents and purposes, dedicated their entire lives to solving Oak Island's enigma and learning its closely guarded secrets, while harboring the hope of unearthing hidden gold on the island. Despite the fact that they had previously spent many years trying very hard to uncover the island's secrets, but making very little headway in their attempts, it appears that their most recent treasure hunting expedition has really taken a fruitful turn. On Oak Island, the Lagena brothers have made a number of important discoveries recently. Some claim that these discoveries have made it possible to access the hidden wealth on Oak Island. This archaeological gem was found thanks to the use of ground-penetrating radar. It was initially thought to be a crossbow bolt, but a specialist in ancient antiquities thinks it might have been a javelin, a type of weapon used by the Romans more than 2,000 years ago. The team finds a metal object that appears to be what they have been looking for since the first episode of the show in the second episode of the 9th season. Additional inspection reveals that the piece only contains a modest amount of gold in its entirety. The secrets surrounding Oak Island keep getting more complicated as the show follows the journey of full-time treasure hunters through each new season. However, you might get the same results with your own gear. Their discoveries with metal detectors open up hitherto unfathomable vistas for historical inquiry. Always make sure to get permission before hunting anywhere, whether it's on someone else's land or a public space. As the team continued their journey through Portugal, they turned their attention to the country and the Templar Knights, while looking for old structures and researching relics that might be connected to Oak Island. Together with Oak Island theorist Corjan Mall and a few local historians, Rick and Alex Lagena, Doug Crowell, and Peter Fornetti visited a number of ancient sites in Portugal. They were led to 3 distinct locations, each of which displayed mounting proof that Oak Island's history is connected in some way to that of Portugal and the Templars. In Tomar, Portugal, there is a church and Templar fortress called Convento de Cristo. It was built in the 12th century. To start their investigation, the group was brought there. Corjan was particularly intrigued by the aqueduct's drainage system, which he thought had served as inspiration for whoever created the Smith's Cove finger drains. The aqueduct drainage system was what captivated Corjan the most out of all the amazing elements that were packed into this massive structure. This link might have seemed a little tenuous, but Corjan had more details. The original church gate, now faded, bore an engraving of a cross surrounded by 4 dots. The sign found on the HO stone on Oak Island had an engraving that matched this one exactly. The HO stone was a fragment of a rock discovered on Oak Island. The boulder is thought to have formerly indicated the location of a treasure, but an accident in 1921 reportedly destroyed it. The lads also discovered another O-shaped sign with a dot in the middle, which is also depicted on the HO stone during the previous week. The group then traveled to a military history museum in Lisbon. They had replicas of the 2 little cannonballs that had been found on Oak Island, and they intended to use the museum's armory to see if they could match the cannonballs to one of the cannons there. The fact that 2 museum employees immediately confirmed that the 2 cannonballs were of Portuguese origin wasn't a surprise to the boys, because they had already heard from a chemist in a previous episode that the cannonball's composition indicated a Portuguese origin. Alex loaded the cannon with the ball once the guys had discovered the right kind of cannon in order to make sure they had the right kind of weapon. The cannon, which was first used in the 14th or 15th century, was often mounted on a ship's deck. The experts at the museum, however, claimed that the gun could be easily taken out of the ship and brought to an island. Have you already subscribed? Do this right away to learn more exciting updates on fresh discoveries made on Oak Island. Given the ongoing instability on the global stage that has existed ever since the New World was discovered, it should not be shocking that the mysterious Oak Island has come to represent a secret trove of royal treasures. Over time, Oak Island has come to represent a secret hoard of royal treasures. Two of the most convincing responses in this area come from the French and British militaries, both of which are supportive. The British's hostile acts against the French garrison at Fort Louisbourg are the defining element in this interpretation. It's thought that at some point during either of the French and Indian War or the 7 Years' War, the French treasure that had been housed in the bastion during those wars was transferred to the sophisticated vault on Oak Island. Two very different viewpoints can be taken while examining this line of thinking. Some believe that at some time during the 6-week siege in 1758, the French were able to smuggle all of their treasures past the British boats that were invading and deposit them in the fittingly named Money Pit, which was located within Fort Louisbourg. Some individuals think that the British attack on Fort Louisbourg in 1758, which was successful, served as the catalyst for the ultimate building of the Money Pit, which served as a storage facility. This story holds that the British Army was given the order to painstakingly dismantle the devastated French bastion, pillage its treasures, and bury them beneath an island off the coast of Nova Scotia. You won't believe the recent astounding scientific discovery. To learn more, see the video after this one. Glass from the 18th century was recently discovered deep within a cave. Both professionals, scientists, and other researchers are interested in this unexpected discovery. With the arrival of Craig Tester, who works with Rick and Marty Lagena, as well as fellow landowner Tom Nolan and other members of the team, the study into the enigma known as the Great Quadrilateral is resumed. Approximately 32 feet long and composed of stones, the object in issue may have been created hundreds of years ago, according to Fred. He drew a diagram in the 1990s, and the crew is now excavating the northeastern part of the quadrilateral. They are trying to find out who created it and why in the hopes of discovering these things. Treasure hunter Gary Drayton will examine the finds for important hints and indicators of the location of the treasure as metal detectorist Billy Gerhardt excavates the feature. This finding might offer the team yet another nugget of knowledge on the period of time during which this feature was created. They dug deeper and tried to raise something, but it was a big curved piece of iron, and it was incredibly difficult. An 18th century glass was discovered in a rectangle that was dug up deep during the excavation. Due to the way it was coiled, its size, and its weight, they claimed that when the piece of iron arrived there, it reminded them of a chunk of a cannonball. This was brought on by both the size and weight of the particle. One of the crew members disclosed that he had been successful in finding a sizable number of them in the southeast region of the country. It may or may not be true, in Rick Lagena's opinion, that this finding could offer a significant hint as to who created the so-called Great Quadrilateral. But it's likely that Rick Lagena is right to make his assessment. In that situation, it becomes much more intriguing to think about the topic of what exactly its aim was. This would be a great site to find any wealth that may have been taken to Oak Island and buried there in the past. They all reached the same conclusion after something was pulled up, and then something else was reburied in the same spot. This is definitely unique. They hope to find additional artifacts and come to their own conclusions about what they may mean, since they thought there might be other boulders, and they also thought there might be. The team is currently working on the southern half of the feature, after just finishing the northern portion, where they found several items that may be of great interest. The mystery further intensified and grew more perplexing as they descended beneath the stone layer. The metal detecting expert Gary Drayton and the Oak Island historian Charles Barkhouse continue to snoop around on Samuel Ball's property in the 8th episode of the 4th season, The Mystery of Samuel Ball, and turn up a number of intriguing artifacts. This ongoing inquiry is known as the Mystery of Samuel Ball. Drayton and Barkhouse find a dandy button, a sort of button that was often worn on garments in the 1700s, near the start of the tale. They rapidly uncover several coins from the 1700s with King George II's image, as well as a lead ingot used to make musket balls. Drayton had the idea that all of these artifacts might be the remains of a military encampment after discovering what looks to be a metal tag from the bottom of a revolver with a name etched on it, which some online academics think may have been Samuel Ball's own name. Drayton's discovery of another object leads to the development of this theory. These campers from the 18th century either left their own treasure behind or were searching for hidden wealth. The only thing concerning Oak Island in the 1700s about which there is complete certainty is that there was a great deal of activity going on there. In the 4th episode of Season 7's The Lucky 13, Gary Drayton and Charles Barkhouse revisit Lot 21 to see if they can uncover any new information. In reality, they are successful in finding a pair. The first thing they find is an 1800s British halfpenny coin. The next thing they find is a brooch with a detailed design of a rope and a leaf on it. Marty Lagena will take some time to count the number of branches on the leaf after he has finished polishing the brooch. There are a total of 13 of them. This is a reference to the crew finding the Appeal to Heaven flag in the Lost and Founding episode from the previous season of Lost and Founding. The flag was flown from George Washington's own ships. The picture showed a pine tree with 13 different branches. A carving of a tree with 13 branches has been carved into a rock on Oak Island's northern side. Additionally, the number 13 is believed to have some form of significance, and the Knights Templar, an organization that is already closely associated with many of the artifacts found on Oak Island, are said to be connected in some way. Gary Drayton and his metal detecting team once more find evidence of activity on the island in the 17th century in Dead Man's Chest, the 2nd episode of the 5th season of The Curse of Oak Island. This time the activity may have been from the military, potentially from pirates, or even from both. The crew finds a 17th century musket ball that was used in weapons before discovering what they think is a Maravedi, which is similar to the object found in The Find, the Season 1 finale. The difference is that this currency has been divided up into smaller, easier-to-handle pieces. Coins like the Maravedi were often cut in the 17th century to create change. This practice gave origin to the phrase pieces of 8, which was later made well known by the classic pirate novel Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. Another puzzle piece that supports the idea that pirates visited the Oak Island coasts. Is it feasible that additional research on piracy has to be done? The Lagena brothers and Gary Drayton continue their search for hidden money in The Curse of Oak Island, Season 5, Episode 3, Obstruction, by looking into the Dunfield spoils. Robert Dunfield dug a hole that was 100 feet wide and 140 feet deep in 1965 in an attempt to find the rumored treasure that was supposed to be hidden on Oak Island. Ultimately, the large hole was filled in on its own, and the search for the treasures proved to be futile. The soil that was taken out during excavation, however, was not put to another use and ended up being called the Dunfield spoils. With the use of a metal detector, the Oak Island crew swiftly located a pair of English coins bearing the likeness of King.
A massive discovery has been made deep inside the Oak Island money pit, throwing away all theories made until now. For the first time, real evidence of a man-made structure underground has been found, original and potentially holding something the world has hunted for over 200 years. The data is solid, and the hunt has shifted from what if to what's next. The team from Dumas Contracting began digging deeper into the garden shaft, which was about 23 feet long. The excavated material was not just wet and heavy, but mucky, thick, unnatural, suggesting someone had packed it down on purpose. The team knew what that meant, as it meant someone had sealed something important. Evidence came in the form of pieces of timber pulled from the shaft, dated proven to be from 1735. Water samples drawn from within the shaft showed high traces of gold, not folklore, and it seemed to be the heart of the treasure. The garden shaft was not just a collapsed dig site, but an old, well-crafted structure, sitting only a few feet away from a known underground void. This void aligned with historical theories, suggesting a possible chamber or tunnel. The team reinforced the shaft with new 8-foot sets and climbed deeper toward a total planned depth of 80 feet, For the first time in Oak Island's modern history, they decided to go inside to explore. They entered the Inductance Spectrum 120 camera, a sleek cylindrical tool that could see in the dark pan and zoom into shadows. The camera showed tight spaces, preserved walls, and glistening moisture that hinted at movement activity. Scott Barlow stared at the live feed with a stunned look as the area was smaller than expected and more confined. Rick Lagena, who first read about Oak Island as a 10-year-old boy, suited up safety checks and ensured the rebuilt shaft was safe to enter. In conclusion, the discovery of the Oak Island Money Pit has changed the game for the Lega brothers and their team, as they now stand at the very edge of the truth and dig straight into it before digging any deeper. Rick and his team, led by Roger Fortin, embarked on a journey to uncover the hidden treasure of Oak Island. The journey began with a visit to the garden shaft, where they were greeted by the sight of original timbers and human design. The shaft was deep and had survived at a level around 50 feet. Rick and his team began drilling against the wood, testing for hollows, tunnels, and chambers. As the shaft reached 93 feet, Rick and his team were told to stop as time had run out and permits to dig deeper were not in place. The team had the signal and the tech but couldn't break through. As they waited at the edge of discovery, Rick scanned the bottom of the shaft, still hearing the sound of Gary Drayton's detector. He knew that the signal was not a fluke, but something valuable buried just beyond the shaft. The team's options were limited, but they turned to analysis planning projection. Gary Drayton's CTX 3030 was built for harsh environments and filtered out modern clutter, telling the difference between iron and treasure. The signal below the shaft mattered so much that they re-examined water samples taken near the same level where the hit occurred. They found high traces of gold and silver, which was lab-tested evidence and not from the outside world. Combining the wood drill with the wood they had struck earlier, they discovered a tunnel running westward toward a place they called the Baby Blob, a zone marked by previous scans as a potential treasure chamber. The tunnel was there, and the shaft was sitting right on its edge. A new plan was taking shape, and Rick and Marty returned to the shaft one final time that season, not with tools but with intent. As they looked around the base of the shaft, they realized that the timbers underfoot were original, centuries old. The structural preservation down there was shocking, and there were gaps behind the shaft spaces that weren't part of the dig. The answer had to be close, and Gary Drayton descended once more into the garden shaft with the entire team watching. In the end, the team knew this was their last chance at finding the treasure. Rick and Marty's detector swept slowly and carefully, beeping again, indicating that the search for the treasure was far from over. The story revolves around the discovery of a non-ferrous metallic solid in the garden shaft beneath Oak Island. The shaft is not just a reconstructed access point, but a gateway to the island's surface, where the past is bleeding through and signals from below are still present. Gary Drayton's metal detector, calibrated to ignore noise, chirped loudly at the base of the shaft, indicating something real was down there. Rick and Marty stood on thick planks, feeling every vibration, knowing they were surrounded by history and possibly treasure. The structure beneath their boots told a silent story, as the timbers were arranged cut with intention, not a collapse. The team had drilled in the Money Pit region using data from sonar and seismic scans, tracking voids, tunnels, and anomalies. One anomaly, marked at approximately 95 feet, was believed to be a chamber. A tunnel led toward it, which ran westward from the exact area where the garden shaft sat. This stopped the drill and triggered the detector. The season ended when operations paused, but the mines behind Oak Island continued to be explored. The team gathered recalibrated footage, samples, and echoes to ensure precision next season. They decided to drill into the tunnel instead of beside it, preparing for the snowfall and mud freezing while permits were secured. Additional scans shown that there was a possibility of metal content in a number of different zones inside the area, not only in the water, but also embedded in the soil. The term that was utilized was gold signature, and the signature in question were concentrated, which suggests that they were contained or perhaps stored. As a result of this information, a variety of beliefs concerning the Templar Knights, Spanish galleons, and Masonic vaults were rekindled. In addition to serving as a zone for exploration, the garden shaft also served as a point of access and a departure point. When the Dumas team left the island, they left behind the most advanced underground infrastructure that Oak Island had ever seen in its modern age. This was a stabilized shaft that was reinforced to a height of 80 feet and had the ability to breach laterally into chambers that were close. Oak Island, located in Canada, has been the site of a crew that has been looking for a long-lost treasure for generations. Over the course of their investigation, they have discovered hints that something concealed and preserved was concealed beneath the lowest point of the garden shaft. Due to legal restrictions, the weather, concerns about safety, and the passage of time, they were forced to cease operations as the season came to a close. On the other hand, they ended up returning with the shaft, gold traces, wood that had been struck by the drill, and a rectangular image that had been taken by a high-def camera. In preparation for the return winter, which was not a break, but rather a buildup of the garden shaft, the team made preparations. Through the use of Drayton's CTX 3030 detector, which was updated with water-capable coils, it was planned to conduct additional investigations into the box-shaped anomaly that was detected. Across the entire island, the team was not operating in dispersed directions for the very first time. With each map, reading, and sample leading down to the base of the shaft, the search was concentrated on the same place throughout the entire process. With the help of fiber optic cameras and robotic probes, the subsequent operation would consist of reconnaissance, which would involve drilling horizontally from the shaft at strategic depths. A network of eyes would be established underneath to search for cavities, artifacts, and indications of man-made engineering during the subsequent operation, which would be carried out in a sideways fashion. The group was aware that this was more than just a treasure, it was historically significant. Rick, the head of the team, had already begun lining up the team when the first signs of thawing appeared. This would not only include exploring the shaft, but it would also involve logging, scanning, filming, and analyzing it in real time. Community-based First Nations organizations were consulted in order to guarantee that historical sensitivity was respected. When Rick spoke in the final war room of the year, he did not talk about coming to terms with things, but rather about moving on to new chapters. He reminded the group that although they were not the ones who started the story, they could be the ones who ended it. Would it be possible that now is the moment that Oak Island finally reveals its most significant response? Or will the next chapter of the shaft disclose something even more significant? In light of the fact that the world is not yet prepared for the revelation, the team is continuing their hard efforts to discover the truth that lies behind the riddle.